हरि ओम। ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। नमस्ते. Welcome to this 10th session of Viveka Chudamani. We will continue with Panchakosha and study Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha with a few more selected verses. Now, Dr. Hegde sir will give us a quick recap of last class and then guide us through the today's class. Over to you, sir.
Om Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We have covered more than 50% of the 108 verses. Today's classes will be completing the 60th verse. So I thought as we are somewhere midway, let us take a quick recap at what we have done so far in our study of the Viveka Chudamani. We are so blessed to have this opportunity to study this wonderful Prakarana Grantha. The original work has got 581 verses. We are studying a selected 108 verses. It so happened that Swami Dayananda had to take this text for a group who had a limited amount of time. And he requested Swami Paramarthananda ji to see how you can get the best of the Viveka Chudamani, but in 1/6 of the number of verses. And these 108 verses selected by Swami Paramatmananda ji have now become a sort of a standard for a brief version of the Viveka Chudamani. The greatness of the Viveka Chudamani is that it gives the essence of all Vedanta in a very systematic and in a very progressive manner. One of the most important and early verses of the Viveka Chudamani is this, which says, Durlabam Trayamevata Daivanugraha Hetukam Manushutvam Mumukshutvam Mahapurusha Samashraya, which means three things are extremely difficult to get a human birth, to get this desire to pursue Paramapurushartha or Moksha, and to come under the influence of a great Acharya or Guru. These things are extremely difficult. The Viveka Chudamani again and again says how glorious it is to be a human being, because only in human birth can we work for Paramapurushartha or Moksha. And therefore, now that we have all this, let us make this a commitment that I'm here for Paramapurushartha. Our teachers repeat again and again that moksha is possible only through spiritual wisdom or jnanam. And this jnanam is possible only through a systematic and a consistent study of Vedantic scriptures or the Shastra. These scriptures become meaningful only when unfolded by a traditional guru. And this requires not only a guru who is a Shrotriya Brahmanishta, but those of us who are qualified and who have that Tivra Mumukshutvam and that Shraddha, all these sadhana chatustaya which make us eligible for this study. When we started this study, we had so many people including in this group, but as the going becomes tough, it finds that many people drop out. And then those of us who are continuing in this systematic study are those people whom are referred to in this verse in the Mundaka Upanishad, which says, Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Brahmana. Brahmana means a wise person. A wise person means one who has investigated what is that I have accomplished in my life. And when you see, you realize one thing, that what I want is the limitlessness. I want the infinite. And the person now realizes how much ever I work, the gap between me and the infinite is like working towards a horizon. It is a constant. I find that, the more I do, there is more still to do. The realization is through my finite efforts, the infinite can never be accomplished. We are very fortunate to see there are some people who are human beings like us, but who have accomplished. And these are the Shotriya Brahmanishta. To them, we go carrying Samit Pani, symbolically my past, symbolically my ego. I surrender to them and say, please show me the way. And that is what is the Viveka Chudamani all about. The Bhagavad Gita says, Manushyanam sahasresu kaschid yatati siddhai. That means among the thousands of people, only a handful of them come for spiritual wisdom. And even in our journey, we see as we go, yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vittaye tat tvataha. That means even among those who have started the journey, how many of them are going all the way till the very end? And that is still very few. And that is why somewhere midway in our study, it is my decision that we re-motivate all ourselves, that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I'm still going to commit enough of my time that the study of the Viveka Chudamani will go till the very end. The Viveka Chudamani is in a form of a dialogue, like all our scriptural work, between a qualified teacher and a student. And it is famous for those 7 questions which all of us should know. Who is this fellow, myself, called the Jiva or the Atma? I see not me around, or Anatma around, which I can call it as Jagat. What is this Jagat? If Jiva and Jagat should exist and none of them, who is the creator of all of them? Who is Ishvara or Paramatma? I see a lot of limitations or bandha. What is this limitation? How do I get over them? Or what is moksha or freedom from that? And what are the means to get over? Viveka Chudamani has one more question. That is the 7th question. The 7th question is, this bondage that I am has been there for time immemorial. There is something that keeps on perpetuating. So the student makes another interesting question. He says, what is that which perpetuates this bondage? And the teacher answers, all material activity other than spiritual inquiry. That means any form of activity that I do has a mechanism inbuilt to perpetuate. And this becomes the vicious cycle of what is called avidya kama karma. Avidya means I do not know my true nature. When I do not know who I am, I have a feeling that if I am able to accomplish this, then I will attain to Purnatvam. And once that desire enters my mind, I am forced into karma. Karma creates either punya or papa, and this punya papa causes this cycle to be perpetuated. Remember, 2 classes ago, we had Adi Shankara giving us 10 correlates between samsara and a tree and how vichara can destroy this bondage. Adi Shankara gives us the diagnosis. What is the cause of bondage? The real cause is my ignorance of my true nature. And because of my ignorance, I make an adhyasa or error. And the error is I identify with this limited body-mind complex as myself. And as this body-mind is limited and it has its own prarabdha, I become so identified with the limitations and the suffering or the joys of this body. That is what is the cause of bondage. If I know what is the cause of bondage, how do I get out of it? The answer is through inquiry. It is not someone else can do this for you. Each one of us has to go through a methodical inquiry, because this deha abhimana, this identification with this body-man complex has been there for so many lives. It is not possible to get over it. Exactly at this time in the study of Viveka Chudamani, where the last 3-4 classes have been on this process of vichara called Panchakosha Viveka. What is this Panchakosha Viveka? Or it is a very systematic method of making a distinction between this body-mind complex, which we can call as kosha or covering, which hides the real me as Atma. What we need to check in our own life is, what is that in me which is constant, eternal all the time? What is there in me which is all the time changing? Evidently, my body and mind has been changing so much from the time I was a child until now. But the embodied, the one who is listening, the one who's speaking through this body-mind, that one has never changed. So log on to the non-changing, experiencing the constant changing body-mind complex. The teacher also says the real me is of the nature of Sat or existence. I am conscious, and my true nature is one of bliss. Whereas the body-mind complex is Asat, is material in nature, and it has got all kinds of emotions, predominantly dukkha. The real me is the knower principle, and everything around me, including my body-mind complex, comes under the domain of the experienced or drishyatvat, or that which is known. Again, through Drik Drishya Viveka, I experience myself or see myself as the Drik or the subject. Everything, including my body-mind complex, is the object of my experience. And I focus or identify and claim myself to be the seer, who is someone other than the seen, this body-mind complex. Now, to arrive at a very delicate job, let's say a delicate work, a very fine work like microneurosurgery, and this is an aneurysm surgery which involves a very delicate dissection of blood vessels and the small perforators which are all around. The kind of instruments that we have to be absolutely delicate, because we are working under very high magnification, and ordinary instruments will look so big. So how do we go around? The spiritual masters say, now what we are working on, the Atma, is extremely subtle. And they give us various exercises like moving or meditating from earth, water, fire, air to space. So when we start meditating on space, when the mind tries to understand what is this space, what is this time? So when you begin to meditate on these subtle entities, your mind becomes more and more subtle. And that is the instrument of the mind has to be processed to working from Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, and then the big jump from Anandamaya Kosha to Anandamaya Atma. Many of us have had this experience of moving to high altitudes, like for instance, Kailash. Because of the high altitude, the atmosphere is rarefied, and we need to be accustomed to the low levels of the oxygen there. So the treatment or the process is a process of acclimatization. Every time more than 10,000 feet, each 2,000 feet, we stop, wait for a day or two until the body is acclimatized before we go to higher altitudes. What are we doing? We are training the mind to go beyond the mind. Now, this is the real challenge, because this Atma Tattva that we are talking about, this entity which is called pure existence, pure consciousness, pure Ananda or bliss, is not something that can be understood by the mind. But yet I have no other means than my mind, comparable to the pole vaulter jumping across the pole. Now I have to use my mind to go beyond the mind, and the mind does not like it. The mind is going to resist it, and the mind is not going to say it is possible. So that is why we need an acharya who helps us to use the scriptures, to use the teaching, and later on to be able to gracefully detach from all this as we go beyond. Swamiji has spoken so many times about the 5 aspects of consciousness not being part, product, or property of the body. It is an independent entity which pervades and enlivens the body. It is not limited to my body, it is all pervading. And even when this body drops, consciousness is existing, but it cannot be manifested for want of a suitable media. We have understood this because Swamiji has drilled it into us so many times. The same thing is true about pure existence. Now, this is another quantum jump. In today's talk, we'll be talking about pure Ananda or bliss, which is actually the same entity. We are not Sat Chit Ananda as 3 different entities. We are one entity which has got all these, which are not attributes, which is our Swarupa or nature. In today's class, we will be working predominantly on Panchakosha Viveka, distinguishing between Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. We will have 2 verses to deal with the Vijnanamaya Kosha, 3 verses dealing with what is this Anandamaya Kosha, and sequentially the teaching is to define these koshas and to tell us how I am not that. The last presentation, which will be by Trini, will be a sum up of this entire Panchakosha Viveka to see how I am none of these when I am the Atma. This is very beautifully summed up in the Upadesha Sara, which Bhagavan in verse 22 says, Vigrahendriya pranadi tamaha naham ekasat tat jadam hi asat. Vigraha means this body. Indriya here represents the mind. Prana is pranamaya kosha. Vi means the intellect or the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Tamaha means Anandamaya Kosha. So in the first line, you will have all the 5 koshas. Bhagavan says, Naham, I am none of them. Then who am I? I am Eka, the one, the non-dual Sat. And what about all in the first line? Tat, Jadam, Hi Asat. All the others, these Pancha Koshas are Jadam or inert and not as real. They are of a lower order of existence compared to that Eka Sat or the seer within us. We will begin with Mamata, who will be speaking to us about Vijnanamaya Kosha. Over to you, Mamata.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhungte vichitra swapiyo nishu vrajan ayati niryatyadha urdhvameshaha asyaiva vijnanamayasya jagrata swapnadyavastha sukha dukkha bhogaha. The analysis of Panchakoshas to realize the self or Atma is continued in this mantra with the focus on Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha is one of the 5 Panchakoshas. It is the abode of the intellect, the rational faculty, the ahankara or ego that gives us the sense of personal identity due to self-ignorance is also part of Vijnanamaya. All the knowing, the thinking, the reasoning and ahankara occurs within the domain of Vijnanamaya. Let us take the example of painting a picture to understand the koshas. Next slide, sir. The hand I use to paint is Annamaya Kosha. When I am painting using my hand, the energy that enables it to paint is Pranamaya. The thought that I must paint is Manomaya. And knowing or feeling that I am painting using my hand, that knowledge, the agent of action or sense of doership, that is Kartatvam, is Vijnanamaya. Hence, Vijnanamaya is Karta, and based on law of karma, it is Bhokta as well, which means the one who reaps the results of its actions. Putting it all together, the Vijnanamaya Kosha that understands results in thoughts in Manomaya Kosha and acts on the thoughts using Pranamaya. This put together is called Jiva, which alone has free will and decides the course of life. Further elaborating on the mantra, Vijnanamaya, that is Jiva or Ahankara, as a Karta, next slide sir, is involved in worldly activities and performs both Shastriya as well as worldly deeds termed as karma. This gives rise to Kama, Krodha, Dvesha, etc. And hence, some of the activities are done following dharma and some violating dharma. Therefore, based on good and bad actions, the jiva acquires punyam and papam in the process. This punya papam are results based on law of karma. This is called karma phala. These punya papa will later be converted into pleasure and pain, which is bhungte, the first word in the verse. And a part of punya papam called agami may fructify in the current janma itself. The unfructified punya papam is responsible for punarjanma or migration of the jiva from one life to another. Shankaracharya says, extent of punya papam decides the type of birth. For example, One may be born as Deva and another one as a tree, and so on. This is explained in the part of the verse, Bhungte Vichitrasu Apiyoni Shuvrajan. Yoni in this context is physical body or Annamaya Kosha. Vichitrasu Yonishu means varied types of living beings and species, or it is just the physical bodies. The jiva, after leaving the current physical body, travels, which is Vrajan in the verse, and enters different types of bodies, experiencing the joy and sorrow associated with the punyam and papam of the jiva. This jiva or ahankara, which is eshaha in the verse, while migrating from one life to another, comes down to bhuloka or lower loka, adaha ayati or urdhvam niryati, will sometime go up to higher lokas. Loka here refers to the field of experience. Higher or lower loka is used to categorize the quality of experience. For example, if I am born as an animal, it is said to be lower loka. The shloka also says, Asya eva vijnanamayasya jagrat swapna dhyavastaha, which means Vijnanamaya Kosha goes through the three states of experiences, Jagrat, Swapna, and Avastha, which is waking, dream, deep sleep states. And through all these states, the jiva experiences pleasure and pain, good and bad experiences. As I conclude this verse, next slide, sir. The Vijnanamaya Kosha as Karta and Bhokta, identifying with Jiva or Ahankara, will acquire Punyam and Papam, resulting in endless cycle of Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. Discovering my real nature or self and attaining moksha is the only way to put an end to this endless cycle. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Mamta, for a nice explanation of what is this Vijnanamaya Kosha and what are the problems that come when I identify myself as Vijnanamaya Kosha. I suddenly become limited Karta and a Bhokta. This perpetuates the cycle of rebirth. And it is this intellect in me that can be trained to work towards Vedanta Vichara. That is why Mana Eva Manushyanam Karana Bandha Moksha. Mana here means the intellect, or Vijnanamaya Kosha itself can be the cause of my bondage. The Vijnanamaya Kosha can be the cause of my freedom. We have one more verse on Vijnanamaya Kosha, which Dr. Sanjay Mehrotra will explain to us. Over to you, Dr. Sanjay.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the introduction to this verse, discussion about the 5 koshas, which has already been told about by the previous speaker, and they of course are the Annamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. Jiva considers himself by mistake as this physical body, and then he becomes a karta and a bhokta. So whenever you are being a karmi, or you're becoming a karta, you will always become a bhokta, which means that you will always incur some karma phala, which results in good deeds or bad deeds, which leads to papa and punya, and this leads to punarapi jananam and punarapi maranam. So the cycle of birth and death goes on. Next. So if you look at the previous verse, which was 188 verse of the Vivek Chudamani, where Shankaracharya said, Vijnana Kosho Ayam Ati Prakasha. Out of all these koshas, the Vijnanamaya Kosha is most brilliant. And that is why the Jiva consider himself to be this only. But why? Because Prakrashta Sanidhya Vashat Paratmana, which means it is very, very close to the Paratma or the Atma or the Self. And this is the subtlest kosha. This Jivatma, which comprises Buddhi and borrowed consciousness, sees itself as a separate entity and believes to be plural or separate from others. So that it looks at the plurality of existence and consider himself to be an individual. Next slide, please. Now in the verse, which is 206, Shankaracharya says that Vijnanamaya Kosha is not the Atma. Ato nayam paratma sad Vijnanamaya shabd bhak vikaritvaj jadatvaschya parichinnatva hetutah दृश्यत्वाद् व्यभिचारित्वात् नानित्यो न nitya ishyate. Shankaracharya says that Vijnanamaya Kosha is not Paramatma, ayo nayam Paramatma, Paratma. Syad Vijnanamaya Shabd Bhag, which means this Vijnanamaya Kosha, Paramatma, na syad. It is not that. Now for a Jnani, all the koshas, including the Vijnanamaya Kosha, is not an Atma. But for an Ajnani, all these koshas are his self only, especially the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Those who do not have this knowledge will consider that my mind, my brain is me. And that is what most of us have been prior to understanding the Vedanta. Now, why this Vijnanamaya Kosha is not me? Because it is vikaritvat, which means it changes, is subject to change. For example, the intellectual personality is subject to change. And I am aware of this change. So I cannot be what is changing. Atma is nirvikara. That is what the Shruti says. Now, the Vijnanamaya Kosha is also not jadam. Brain is only a jada vastu. It is only inert, and the sentience to the brain is given by the Atma. And it parichinna tatvaha hetutaha. Mind and intellect, which is Vijnanamaya Kosha, are limited, and Atma is limitless. Now, next slide, please. Now, it is not even drishyatvat, which means Vijnanamaya Kosha is an object of our senses. We are conscious of our intellect, and hence we cannot be the subject also. Vyabhicharitvat means it is not constantly present. The intellect is not serving all the time. For example, in the deep sleep state, it is not available. As it is not available all the time, it cannot be the Atma. Vyabhicharitva means that it disappears and appears. Now, anityavat means it is not eternal. The intellect is also mortal and changing and variable. This all means that Vijnanamaya Kosha cannot be the self, the reality which is eternal. Next slide, please. So, Shankaracharya says, Anityaha Vijnanamaya Nitya Atmana Isyate na Bhavati, which means that impermanent Vijnanamaya Kosha cannot be the permanent Atma. By all these verses which we have described, and Mrs. Mamta has described in the previous talk, the Shankaracharya is trying to tell that all these koshas are not Atma. Atma is attributeless, it is eternal, and it is what which is giving sentience to all these koshas. Hari Om, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, for giving us a clear explanation about this Vijnanamaya Kosha, and to define it and tell us, although this appears to be conscious, it is only a borrowed consciousness, but because it is something that I can experience my mind, which is trying to explain what Dr. Sanjay said. And so I can see the intellect. So whatever is seen, whatever is there for some time, which disappears to my sleep, we have all those reasonings. While rationally we are very clear, it is through in our daily life to make that great jump that I am not this intellect. That is the real challenge. We now move to another deeper level of understanding, which is extremely subtle. And this is about the Anandamaya Kosha, which Dr. Kiran will explain. Dr. Kiran, please.
Thank you. Hari Om, Gurubhyo Namaha. This verse explains Anandamaya Kosha. It being more subtler than Vijnanamaya Kosha, let us first study some basic concepts before we move on to the verse proper. Let us study Ananda first. Ananda, as it is commonly known as happiness, is a positive experience or emotion where we feel like expanded or exalted. Whether this is true, we will study it. There are three layers or vritti, as we commonly know. One is Priya. So a common example is we see a Tirupati Laddu and we feel little happy. That is Priyam. And we possess it. It is in our hand. That is Moda. And then once we eat it, we feel as if the whole world is ours. This is Aikyam or Pramoda. Next slide, please. What is the source of happiness? Is it outside in objects or inside? If it were in objects, just like in Tirupati Laddu we saw, the more laddus we eat, the more happiness we should get. No, it is not so. As soon as we get third or fourth laddu, we say no and run off. Then where is this happiness? It is within us, or in fact, it is the real me only is the happiness. In Chandogya Bhuma Vidya section, it says only infinite self is the real Sukham. Every word is important here. We will know why. Atma does not possess Sukham, does not give or take Sukham. In fact, it is alone Sukham. Next slide, please. Yeah. Mind doesn't give happiness. What mind does is it reflects happiness from Atma. Similar to previously how we know mind and Vijnanamaya Kosha has borrowed the Chit and enlivens it. But Ananda, like Chit, is Atma Swarupa. So it is not part, product, etc. of the mind. When the mind becomes conducive, it quietens and reflects Ananda as it were. So that's when we feel happy. So, but this is reflection. That's why it is called as Anandamaya Kosha. Next slide, please. Is Ananda an experience? Now comes the bouncer. Is Ananda an experience? Do we need mind to experience Ananda? No. Ask me why. Because as we studied, Ananda is Atma Swarupa. So just like we do not need any proof to say I exist. For example, I close my video camera and say nobody can see me. That doesn't mean that I'm not existing. To me, I'm there. I don't need proof to prove it to anybody. Similarly, there is no need for any pramana or tool to experience or know Ananda. Just like space, we don't need to experience anything. It is covered by all the things we see. Only as soon as we remove it, we know the real space. And deep sleep is God's way of showing it that no effort is needed to experience or Ananda. Mind, by its capacity to reflect, alters the situation to Rajasic, Tamasic, etc. And that's why we feel many different qualities of it. We wait for 3 days and wade through Jargandis and stand before the Lord resplendent with jewels and best diamonds. What we do? We close our eyes and come out and say we had a very good darshan. Why do we say that? We get Ananda when we close to all external and internal turbulation and mind quietens. This is Ananda. Next slide. So in Anandayama Kosha, we experience happiness even though mind is absent. In fact, mind will be quite absent here, and there will be only the Atma and Avidya or the Mula ignorance. And it occurs due to Punya, the capacity to go to sleep, because this alone is needed to experience Ananda, nothing else. So Ananda belongs to Karana Sharira and not mind or Vijnanamaya as we think. Yeah. So all the things we have in the verse we have gone through, Anandamaya Kosha is a mental modification born out of avidya and it is reflected by Ananda when we get a desirable object, etc. So let us study how this happens. This is a very important chart. Maya has got two capacity. One is vikshepa or projection. Next is covering or ignorance capacity. Through ignorance, it produces karana sharira, whereas through projection, it produces sthula prapancha, where we experience the Vekar Jagat, and Sukshma, where we experience the dream. This Sthula reflects the existence or Satyam, and whereas Sthulam with Sukshma, even though Sukshma is predominant, we need Sthula. This reflects the Nanam or knowing, whereas the Anantam or the infinite one is present throughout, and we don't need any experience or medium. This is called as Ananda. This is a real Ananda. Just like an infinite canvas where mind is a paint, and existence or sthula objects becomes the all the pictures we see in the canvas. Yeah. So let us study the difference between Ananda and Anandava. This difference is not like apple and oranges, two different things. It is the same thing in different gradation and in time. Whereas Ananda Maya is temporary and born out of ignorance, real Ananda is Sadananda and is always there, and no effort is needed. When we strain something, that means it is not ours original. I would like to end with a famous book quotation, Flow, which beautifully describes this happiness scientifically, where he says, even while doing work, when mind quietens, we experience Ananda as a flow. This is a glimpse of real Ananda as we experience it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kiran, for introducing what is this Ananda Maya Kosha and what is this real Ananda, which is our true nature or Atmananda, and how the Ananda Maya Kosha borrows Ananda from the Atma, and what is the difference between Kosha and Atmananda, which is our true nature. Based on this introduction, we have two more presentations which will tell us more about what is this Anandamaya Kosha. Diksha, please.
Hari Om. Anandamaya Koshasya Sushuptau Spurtirutkata Swapna Jagarayor Ishat Ishta Sandarshanadi. In this shloka, Shankaracharya is talking about the Anandamaya Kosha. Jiva experiencing Anandamaya Kosha and consequent happiness is being discussed in this verse. Anandamaya Koshasya Spurtihi. Spurtihi means manifestation, appearance, and availability. Evidence of Anandamaya Kosha is Utkata, is more dominant in the Sushupta, that is, deep sleep state. In deep sleep, mind is resolved for a length of time. So there's no raga, kama, krodha, or dvesha. There's no duality or no individuality. One is an Advaita. So Ananda is continuously there for a length of time. So Sushupta in deep sleep, Spurtihi, experience of Ananda, Utkata, is dominant. Sushupti as a happy state makes us wonder whether it is happiness or is it a state where I am in a neutral state. Prashnopanishad, Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya Upanishad uniformly declare that in Sushupti, the Jiva is in Advaita Avastha and mind is not there. Therefore, there is joy reflected in the Karana Sharira. It is not the Ananda coming from the external world because the word itself has disappeared in Sushupti. Thus, the Ananda is my own reflection in my own Karana Sharira. In Swayam Jyoti Brahmanam, a mantra goes as follows. Atra pita apita bhavati, mata amata bhavati, loka aloka, deva adeva, veda aveda. That means, at the time of sleep, father is no more father, mother is no mother, no duality, no individuality, no worry. It is a state of continuous happiness. That is why, after waking up, everybody says, I slept happily. Not only Sushupti is a state of happiness, it is also proved that everybody loves to go to Sushupti. Normally, we complain about our repetitive job, but regarding sleep, nobody complains. In fact, we look forward for this experience. Whereas Swapna Jagarayoho, during waking and dream also, we go to Advaita Avastha or to Karana Sharira, Anandamaya Kosha. Ishad, that is briefly. Swapna Jagarayoho. We have to connect this to the previous line. That is Anandamaya Koshasya Spurtir Bhavati. We don't experience Advaita in waking state. We dip into our Karana Sharira at the time of happiness. When can this happen? Ishta Sandarshanadi. Because of seeing Ishta Vastu, etc. Swami Paramarthananda has spoken about Ishta Darshana, Ishta Grahana, and Ishta Anubhava. That is, seeing, possessing, enjoying a desired object. Seeing corresponds to Priyavritti, that is, I am happy. Possessing corresponds to Modavritti, I am happier. But enjoying corresponds to Pramodavritti, I am the happiest. Ishta Sandarshanadi. Adi means Grahana Anubhava. So during moments of joy, everybody is in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. So Shushupti is Nirvikalpaka Anubhava. Ananda is also Nirvikalpaka Anubhava, which is conditional. It will come and it will go. Even the Samadhi is subject to arrival and departure. Whereas once I know my nature is Nirvikalpaka, the perception of duality does not disturb my Nirvikalpaka Swarupa, because Nirvikalpaka Swarupa is Satyam and Savikalpaka Anubhava is Nityam. We must understand that Savikalpaka Anubhava cannot disturb Nirvikalpaka Swarupam. Vedanta is interested in Nirvikalpaka Gnanam, which will not be disturbed by Savikalpaka Anubhava. According to Swami Paramarthananda, Samadhi is also not required because it is working for Nirvikalpaka Anubhava Gnanam in Jagrata Avastha. In Nirvikalpaka Anubhava, one does not get any Gnanam. There is no Guru, no Shastra. So Nirvikalpaka Gnanam in Savikalpaka Avastha. I repeat, Nirvikalpaka Gnanam in Savikalpaka Avastha is our Vedantic aim. Therefore, the Ananda obtaining in Nirvikalpaka Anubhava in this topic here. Shankaracharya says, Swapna Jagarayoho, in the waking and dream state, Ishadi. There is passing dominance of Anandamaya Kosha, due to which a momentary experience of Ishad Darshana Grahana Anubhava is prevalent. Hari Om.
Thank you, Diksha, for making this very subtle difference between Anandamaya Kosha or Koshananda and Atmananda. Atmananda is our intrinsic very nature. That is why we don't need any object, we don't need any situation, we don't need any person to experience it because it is our own nature. However, we will see through persons, through object, through situations, we can experience Ananda, which has a gradation as nicely described as Moda, Pramoda, Priyamoda and Pramoda. Whereas the Atmananda, this Atmananda should come through understanding of our true nature. And once you have this understanding, then you will know what is this Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha. Once you know your true nature, then people will come and go. Situations may come and go. But the joy, the balance that I am is not disturbed. Then whether I am in Savikalpa Avastha, that means I may be awake, but I have that Nirvikalpa Jnanam, my true nature, that I am Purna with situations around or without any of these situations. Thank you very much. We go to the last talk, which will be also by another young person like you. Vindhya will tell us this very subtle difference about Anandamaya Kosha. Over to you, Vindhya, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Naivayam Anandamaya Paratma Sopadhikatvat Prakritervikarat Karyatvahito Sukrita Kriyaya Vikara Sanghata Samahitatvat. Anandamaya Kosha is Anatma because Anandamaya Kosha refers to experiential happiness. This happiness is temporary and its conditional nature causes great suffering if you dwell in it. Anandamaya Kosha is in the form of three vrittis, Priya, Moda and Pramoda, which are a product of Karana Shariram because of Purva Janma Punya. This Ananda is a result of Punya Phala. I may gain or lose this happiness because it is temporary. On the other hand, Nityananda is always with me and I am complete with this happiness. This happiness is Atma because it is whole with no separate parts and it's called permanent happiness. So, which happiness do you want? This verse makes us aware of the temporary nature of happiness derived from the worldly and material things, which can also be called experiential happiness. Remember that temporary happiness by itself is not bad. In fact, it is good. It's good to enjoy that temporary emotion, but remember again not to dwell in it because that's where the problem starts because of its transient nature, which is bound to give sadness. In English, there is a phrase for it. When an event which was so enjoyable suddenly become burdensome, they say that the honeymoon period is over. Temporary happiness is bound by these three, Priya, Moda, Pramoda, and this verse can be applied for every material aspect of our lives. When you first get married, there's a lot of love and affection between the couple, but over time, they start finding faults and flaws with each other which did not seem to exist before. This is the sorrow brought about by temporary happiness. So, then from my example, does that mean marriage itself is bad? No. But the awareness that marriage can bring sadness and happiness is important. The awareness of the materiality of the world is key. Be aware that there are highs and lows, and this awareness itself will prepare you to deal with these extreme emotions better and attain a state of equilibrium of the mind. This balanced state of mind is achieved when you realize what is permanent. Atma is permanent, and Atma gives that eternal happiness, which is called Nityananda. The awareness of Nityananda itself facilitates you to cope better with the sorrows brought about by experiential happiness or Anandamaya Kosha. This slide, that's the happy, sad octopus slide, it's a very famous toy that's trending on social media, and it has more than just the constant smile that's seen on most soft toys. So if you're feeling happy, you can invert the octopus to the happy side by stuffing its head inwards. And if you feel sad, you can stuff the toy's head outwards to make it unhappy. I thought this was a very apt example, especially because this today social media is using this toy and people are using this toy to convey their emotions. Is this really necessary? You may not believe this, but it's literally conveying that emotional state of mind, representing our own temporary emotions that don't really last very long. Thus, the goal of Vedanta is to transcend from enjoying this temporary happiness to enjoying eternal happiness. Hari Om.
Thank you, Vindhya, for telling us the distinction between Koshananda and Atmananda. That which comes and goes because of circumstances, persons, or objects is Koshananda. But what we are working for is the discovery of our true nature, which is independent of situations, and that we will see at the conclusion of this whole Panchakosha Viveka, which will be explained to us by Triveni. Over to you, Triveni, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Panchanam api koshanam nishedhe yuktitaha shrutehe. Tan nishedhavadi sakshi bodharupo avashishyate. Before proceeding with the verse proper, let us quickly go through concepts through slides regarding the Shrutis, Yukti, and the Neti principle. Shrutis, Yukti, and the Neti principle. Can we go to the next slide, sir? Yukti and the Neti principle. Panchanamapi koshanam nishedhe. If all the Panchakoshas are dismissed as anatma, excluded from me, yuktitaha shrutehe, with the help of Shruti Pramanam, as well as yuktitaha, reasoning, we can add anubhava or experience also. Once we have excluded all the Panchakoshas, what is left behind is called Tan nishedhavadi sakshi. Avadihi means the remainder. What remains after everything is cleared. That which is so left behind is the sakshi. Bodharupo avashishyate. Bodharupaha, the witness of Panchakosha. As a part of Panchakosha Viveka, Shankaracharya wants to show that Atma is different from all the koshas, and he talks about the Swarupam of that Atma in verses 210 to 222. Now in this verse, he says, Panchanam api koshanam nishede. The first job is the negation of all the 5 koshas with the help of 2 pramanams. The first pramana is the Shruti pramana. With the help of the Shruti, one has to negate the Panchakosha, which is done in the Taittiriya Upanishad through the Neti Neti principle. Incidentally, the main figure in the Upanishad is sage Yagnavalkya, known as one of the greatest philosophers. Most of the great teachings of later Hindu or Buddhist philosophy are derived from him. He taught the great doctrine of Neti Neti, the view that truth can be found only through the negation of all thoughts about it. And Shankaracharya says, mere Upanishad is not enough. We have to take the supportive logic also. And we have different types of reasoning. The main reasoning being Drik Drishya Viveka, which is called Yukti here. So with the help of Shruti Pramana and Yukti Pramana, one has to do the negation. And the negation itself has to be done in 3 stages. The first of negation is that the Anatma is not myself. Anatma is not me. This is the first type of Nisheda. Why do we say Anatma is not me? Because I am the experiencer and the Anatma is the experienced. And so the first stage is accomplished by seeing myself as the experiencer. Then the second stage of Nisheda is Anatma is not even related to me. It is not enough. I see that Anatma as different. Swami Paramarthananda here clarifies that I should also know that Anatma is not related to me and gives an example of the house being different from me. But still the condition of the house can disturb me. Why is that? Not because house is me, but I look upon the house as related to me. So the first one is called Ahankara. The second one is called Mamakara. Both should be negated. Body is not me is Ahankara Nisheda. Body is not mine is Mamakara Nisheda. First one is called Tadatmya Adhyasa and the second one is called Samsarga Adhyasa. We have to negate both. And how do we negate the relationship? By again seeing that I, the Atma, the consciousness, am Asanga Chaitanyam, free from all relationship. And then comes the final stage of Nisheda, the most technical and most difficult Nisheda, and that is Anatma is not as real as me, just as the dream world is not as real as the waker. This is the Satyatva Nishedha, the final stage. So Anatma is not me, Anatma is not related to me, and Anatma is not as real as me. When the Anatma is negated with the help of Shruti and Yukti, what happens? Sakshi Bodharupo Avashishyate. When everything else is negated, only one thing remains, and that is the negator, which can never be negated. And therefore, Shankaracharya says, Nishedha Avadihi, the remainder. Avadhi means remainder, the ultimate locus, which is the culmination of all the negations. That remains. And what is its nature? Bodharupa, who is of the nature of awareness, and you can never talk about the negation of awareness, because it is one thing which can never be negated. Therefore, this Bodharupaha is called Sakshi Chaitanyam or Atma Chaitanyam, and this will avashishyate, remain. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Triveni, for explaining the ultimate or the final verse of this Panchakosha Viveka, where Sri Adi Shankara very clearly makes a distinction between our real nature, the Atma, which is other than all these koshas, However intimate they may be, they are only something that I experience. They are an instrument, but I am not related to them. And I'm not affected by them, need not directly be affected, although they may cause my, functionally, they may affect me to some extent, but I am certainly of a higher order of reality than all of them. And when this understanding is there, I am so big compared to them. It is like when the sun of consciousness wakes up, you become so big, then the stars disappear. Not that the stars do not exist, the stars are still there, but compared to this understanding of who I am not affected by the pinpricks of the anatma around me. With that, we have completed one big section of Viveka Chudamani. We'll conclude today's class by a story, which is a very famous story in the Vedanta circles called The Princess of Kashi. Long back in the kingdom of Kashi, where the king and queen wanted to make a certain play, and a 5-year-old girl was required to play the role of the Princess of Kashi. It so happened that they could not find a girl to play that role. And the queen then found that her 5-year-old son, if could be dressed up like a girl, he could play that role. And once the boy was dressed up like a girl, the boy now looked so adorable that the queen requested that the court artist to make a portrait of the little girl, and a painting was drawn of what is called the Princess of Kashi, and the date and the time was put with this particular title. Once the drama was over, the portrait was taken away and put into the one of the storehouses of the palace. And years later, it was about 20 years later, now a 25-year-old prince about to succeed and take over the reins of the kingdom, managed to explore into the dungeons and the attic of the palace, and chanced upon this portrait of a little girl which was dated at least some 20 years ago and titled as the Princess of Kashi. And the more he looked at it, the more fascinated he was by the beauty of the girl. And a lot of thoughts emerged into his mind. How would she look now that she would be 20 years old? And that's how love emerged in his heart. And he got so engrossed in his love, his parents noticed that there was something not okay with him. They commissioned one of the senior ministers to inquire into what was wrong with this young prince. The boy was a little shy, and he finally confided with the minister that he was in love. And the story went, who was in love with, he said, with a certain Princess of Kashi. And the minister was intrigued. Where did he meet this princess? Then he took him to the attic where they found that old portrait, and he looked at that painting, and suddenly the minister now remembered, and he was able to tell him the entire story. He said, that portrait that you are looking for is not the Princess of Kashi, it is actually you. And he told them the entire story, how a girl was required and how he was dressed up like a girl. Instantly, his desire for that girl disappeared. Friends, how do we analyze the story of the Princess of Kashi? All great Vedantic masters love this story because so much of their experience has been there in this story. How did all the worldly desires, the desire and the love of the prince suddenly disappear? He realized that what he was seeking was none other than himself. That is what Sri Krishna replies to Arjuna's question on Sthita Prajna Kabasha. And the key answer, he says, was Atmanevatmana Tushtaha. One who recognizes a sense of Purnatvam in himself. Then you realize that all that I am seeking is myself. You realize that you are already that which you can possibly be. And this accomplishment in Vedanta is called Praptasya Prapti, or accomplishment of the accomplished. Reflect on the story of the Princess of Kashi. With that, we conclude today's class. Over to you, Venkatesh Prasad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. That marks the end of today's class. Next week, as we continue studying Viveka Chudamani, we'll be entering Atma Swarupa. Let's meet on Friday, same time, for study of Bhaja Govindam. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.